So, welcome to UPAA Live, the second installment, bringing you professional development for university staff photographers who are sitting at home at the moment, which is unfortunate, but that's how it is. So, today we're going to talk about keywording, and we're going to talk about a specific option in photo mechanic called the structured keywords panel. And
Hey
it's
Ken,
how,
before you
yes, sir.
get started, you hit record on your screen?
Yes, I'm recording.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, everybody should know that I'm recording. So if you do things, you may show up, you may not, but this is being recorded. Um, so keywording, structured keywords panel is a way to get control over your keywording and uh, make it fun. Well, as fun as it can be, anyway. So last week, if you all were here, we looked at Jaron Wilkie out at BYU, and he did a nice presentation on lots of things about metadata and archiving and backup, and there's a lot of useful stuff in there. And today we're going to deep dive into specifically keywords, which is one very small piece of the metadata world, but it should make your job easier in the long run. So why keywords? Now, keywords are just one small part of the overall metadata structure. And the metadata basically is there to let your users find photos. And if you combine them with good captions, then the end result is that you or your users can go find photos, you can understand what the photo is about, and you can use them appropriately. And that's both now and 50 or 100 years from now. So keywords and captions are the two crucial elements of metadata. Jaron talked about file names last week. That's also very important. Of course, you want to have your byline in there and your photo credit and everything else and the copyright information. But the really crucial stuff for knowing what's in the photo are keywords and captions. That's how you make sure that that stuff gets used properly. Captions are great. Captions provide very specific information about the photo itself. We follow an AP style, who, what, when, where. In my mind, a caption tells a story about the photo, right? So I can see a photo and I can read the caption and know what was happening in that photo. But captions are necessary, but they're not sufficient, right? A good caption is crucial, but keywords extend the usability of your metadata. Keywords add lots of other options to your metadata, like conceptual ideas or specific subjects or synonyms, locations. They allow you to broaden your search and also or narrow your search depending on what you're looking for. So captions tell a story, keywords add searchability. For example, if you have a picture of a student in the dorm room, you might say, Wake Forest sophomore, John Smith studies in his room in Johnson Hall, and you would have the date. And that would give an idea of what was going on. But if I were looking for a picture of a student using a particular device, a phone or a tablet or a computer, that information would be in the keywords. It wouldn't necessarily go in the caption. So let's look at some examples. So here's a picture that I shot. Here's a picture that I shot one of the last days I was on campus last week. Actually, that was 2 weeks ago. Time flies. So 2 weeks ago, I was on campus. I shot this photograph, and the caption is very obvious and straightforward, right? Tulips bloom on Hearn Plaza on the campus of Wake Forest University, Thursday, March 19th, 2020. So if you have this photo and you have this caption, you know who, what, when, where, and why. Who, tulips, what are they doing? They're blooming. Where are we? We're on Hearn Plaza on the campus of Wake Forest. And when, the date, and the day of week. Very straightforward caption. But then let's look at the keywords. And remember, we're talking about synonyms and concepts and locations and trying to both broaden and narrow the searchability of this photo. So keywords, I've added a bunch here, all of which describe the photo, but all of which would be challenging to put in the caption. I mean, you could write a caption that said, tulips bloom on the scenic and beautiful campus of Hearn Plaza, blah, 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 and have flowers in spring and foggy and landscape in the caption, but that gets sort of unwieldy after a while. So also notice that none of the keywords are in the caption. So if you're searching for things, if you're searching for a scenic photo on the quad, you'll get this, but you wouldn't if we didn't have the keywords. So let's look at what keywords add. What do keywords add? Keywords add concepts, synonyms, locations, activities, etc. So they allow people to broaden their search in your archive. So I can look at all the photos of flowers on the quad, no matter which flowers they are or what time of year, or all the photos of flowers on campus, or I can look at all the pictures of the quad, whether or not they have flowers in them. I can also focus very narrowly, and I can look for pictures from a specific season in a specific place showing a specific activity happening. And that's a lot easier to do when you have more keywords in your metadata. So examples of concepts: happy, fun, challenging, athletic, spring. All of these are conceptual. One of the things that I did probably 10 years ago was I went through our marketing materials and tried to figure out sort of what our branding statement was. What are the ideas behind what we're branding, and how can those be keywords? So we have some keywords that follow along with that. So when people are searching for photos that talk about a collegiate university, I can show them something that I think meets that particular concept. Synonyms. Everybody's got nicknames for buildings on campus. Our basketball arena is the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum. And I guess I can type that out in the caption, but everybody calls it the Joel or the Coliseum or LJVM. And I don't want to write all those things in the caption. That gets totally unwieldy. So a synonym can be an interchangeable word for giving your end user, I don't know what they're going to search for. And I have some people who search for very odd things. And so I'm trying to give them as broad a group of words as possible to search. The next thing that you can add is locations and activities. So if I'm writing about a professor teaching, I might not use the word classroom or seminar or lab in the caption, but it can go in the keyword. All kinds of things you can add there. So let's talk about how to do good keywording. So the first thing to think about is that autocorrect is terrible and typos are something I have a huge problem with. So the first thing about good keywording is it requires consistency and correct spelling, which I am bad about. And I blame autocorrect and my typing even for the bad spelling, which you all should do too. So it's really difficult to make this up as you go along, partly for that reason, but also partly because I may not remember what keywords I used on pictures that I shot a couple of years ago, and I want to make sure they're the same, right? So what you really need is a controlled list that you can share with people if there's somebody else in your office, some form of a controlled vocabulary. I know Peter Crow talks about that in his book. Controlled vocabulary has a very specific meaning in library science, which is not how we're meaning it here, but you could talk to your librarians about that. But having a set of keywords that you can choose from all the time so that they're consistent is a huge big deal. And finally, it needs to be easy to use, right, and fast, or we're not going to do it. If you have an alphabetical list of 500 or 1,000 keywords, it's very challenging to go through and find the right keywords. Nobody's going to use it that way, right? So how do we add keywords? And we can look at that. The first one is in Lightroom, you have the alphabetical list of 5,000 keywords. And if you notice, there's one of them is checked. This is actually in Lightroom, that last assignment that I did on the 19th. One of those is checked. And if you were to scroll down through there, you'd find all the keywords, but it'd be very challenging. And this, by the way, is like every keyword on every photo that's ever been imported into Lightroom in 10 years, including photos that other people keyworded badly. You could use Lightroom keyword sets. The downside to that is that they only have 9 keywords per set. So it's of some use, but more limited. So what we're going to talk about today is structured keywords panel in Lightroom, which looks very complicated. It turns out, though, that it's actually relatively easy to use once you've got it set up properly. And we're going to go and do some demonstrations here and talk about that. So without further ado, here's the structured keywords panel. And notice it has columns, individual columns, the leftmost column, and then each individual column after that. And this is set up like a tree, right? It's a hierarchical list. So it's a hierarchical list. I can say that. Thanks, Bob. So a hierarchical list. It's set up like a tree held upside down, right? So the trunk of the tree is this set of keywords. And then you've got the big branches, and the first column is each big branch. And then when you click on one of those branches, it opens up the second column, and that's smaller branches. And then any one of those, you click on that, and it opens up the next column, and that's even smaller branches, all the way out to the leaves on the tree, right? So any one of these can be applied to your photo. So within this system, within this panel, it's very quick and easy to apply a fairly complex set of keywords to whatever photos you want to apply them to. And at the same time, you can figure out how to add synonyms. You can look over here, the one that I've got highlighted that says Hearn Plaza, the quad, upper quad. Those are all the same place. When I click on that, it's going to add that to my keyword set, and it's going to add all of them at the same time, which is great. One of the nice things about this is it can be used within the IPTC template in Photo Mechanic, which is a very easy way to apply captions, keywords, and all the other data that goes into your IPTC metadata in your files. In Photo Mechanic, these are applied to raw files, and they follow through into Lightroom and then out into the JPEGs that go into our archive. So the way that you set these up is you create them. You can, in theory, create this within Photo Mechanic, one click at a time in the keywords panel, but don't do that. Use a text editor like TextEdit, and we're going to show you exactly how to do that. And then finally, you'll be able to create it, load it into Photo Mechanic, save out your set, share it with people, etc. So I'm going to move on to a demonstration, but first I'm going to escape out of here, hide this, come back to you guys. Where are you? And unmute everybody and see who has questions.
So it's a bit of a challenge, but I think at the very least we make sure that we
Hey, just want to see if anybody had any questions before we move on to the demonstration.
Say Scott Huck
question.
Scott, go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering, when you keyword beautiful campus, if you just search campus, will that same image show up that you had beautiful campus keyworded?
Yes, because almost all of my photos have the word campus. If it's a photo of campus, it's going to say on the campus of Wake Forest University. You know, that's where when people,
if you search within a, go ahead.
Go ahead, Scott. I'm sorry.
If you search for a single word that has multiple words, that will also show up.
It depends on what system you're using, but generally yes. So in theory, in a photo archive, it depends on how their search algorithm works. But if I have a 2-word keyword, the search algorithm should bring it up if I only search for one of those words. Yes.
Thank you.
Say a lot of DAM systems, you can use quotes when you're searching. So if you only want to find beautiful campus, put it in quotes. You'll only find that. If you only want to find the word campus, put it in quotes. Whereas if you just typed in campus, you'll find anything that has the word campus associated with it. So,
okay,
you know, drill down in your particular DAM to find out how it works.
Thank you.
I'll show you later in Libris how they handle keyword searches once you found a photo and you want to find more like it. Anybody else?
Yeah, if I'm understanding this right, you don't care how many keywords are going on, or will bring up the same result. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
You want to make it easier on the user. So then are you what are you giving them as far as are you giving them a list of things that like these are our standard keywords?
No, because that's
No?
way too big a list, right?
Okay,
I'm
that's what
simply
I'm
trying to
wondering.
anticipate. We have like a lot of you guys, right? We have a core group of users that are our
Yeah.
designers, writers in the communications office, whatever. But then there's a ton of users out on campus who are very occasional users, and I'm trying to anticipate what totally oddball, off the wall keywords they might be using to search for something that I don't understand why they're using that word, but I try to anticipate that and have it in the catalog. People come up with some really unusual search terms, and then I get phone calls. Why isn't such and such in the catalog? Well, there are thousands of photos of that. How can you not find it? I mean, user's a 4-letter word, right?
Right.
It is. So yes, I on the one hand, I would not put keywords in. I would not put the keyword Wake Forest or college in there because
Right. It's going to bring up too much.
it brings up every photo, right? But I
Yeah.
also don't. I would hope that you wouldn't be searching for that in our archive.
Right.
I would hope that you weren't. I would I would hope that the end users are smarter than that. But sometimes I wonder.
Well, because I mean, I inherited our DAM system, and it was pretty rough, and keywording was all over the map and stuff. And I've tried to institute one system
Right.
or one way to do things, and but like I incorporated all the old keywords because I'm not going to go back and re-keyword everything. Right. But we have keyword like campus versus grounds. What's the difference between those two things? And I put it on both.
Those are synonyms. You should have both of those, right?
Okay, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
But because I inherited that, but I'm like, if they're bringing up the same results, what's the?
Because you don't know who's going to search for what. That's the reason I would have both campus and I don't like University of Virginia. It's not a campus. It's the grounds, right? Okay. And so you would have both of those because you want to make sure that people who don't know that and search for campus get the same photos.
Okay.
Right. So let's go look at some stuff here. I'm going to mute you guys again, and I'm going to unmute Glenn.
Ken, can I ask one question?
Sure.
So by not adding Wake Forest or Wake Forest University, that's not delineating down to the JPEG that you end up using online. Is that hurting your SEO value?
It's in the caption, right? So Wake Forest is in the caption. And I don't know, do I care about my SEO value? I mean, the only people that have, no, seriously, there's a very specific, very tight controlled list of who has access to these photos. I'm not sure I care where they show up in a Google search.
And oftentimes it's getting stripped out anyway.
Yeah. Who said that?
I did. Sorry. I'm talking out of turn. Nick.
I mean,
I did.
Let me ask you what you mean by that, Nick. Where's it getting stripped out?
Like in our web environment, I guess I shouldn't speak for everybody, but in my experience, our web people are pulling like all of our IPTC, EXIF data. It's all being stripped when it gets put into our website. So,
okay, now you just made me understand the other question, which was, if we're using them on a website, do we have that photo in there? And that helps the SEO. Yes, I can see that. But as you point out, I think they're all getting stripped when they save for web.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that helps. I don't really care about the SEO of the archive itself, but I do care about the universities. All right, I'm just going to leave you guys unmuted, and we can talk amongst ourselves while we look at the demo here. Let me share my screen again, and let me find desktop 1, photo mechanic. Okay, can you guys see this? This is photo mechanic. Is that a yes? Can you see photo mechanic?
We can.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so this is that last assignment that I did on the 19th, and this is like pictures from one of our gates that we have closed, pictures at athletics, pictures of those tulips that I showed you earlier. So when I'm looking at photo mechanic here, if you go up to the image menu, you can find the structured keywords panel, and the structured keywords panel. there are some basic parts here. I can annotate. So here's the first. That's not very helpful. Oh, it's not going to let me annotate that. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Pull off the annotation. Okay, not going to let me annotate that. Too bad. So this, I know. So this first column here is the big picture stuff. And then if I were to click on academics, I would get like academic departments. I can click on that. I get all the academic departments, right? So what do I do with this? Well, let's say I've got a picture of somebody in biology. I just double click on biology and notice that it puts it down here in this box called collection, right? So the collection is basically a basket where I am putting a bunch of keywords that will eventually get applied to the photos that are selected in photomechanic, okay? So if I've got biology, maybe they're doing an experiment, go to location, maybe they're in a laboratory, right? If I go to people, maybe there's a faculty member, maybe there's a student. You know, I can go to concepts, and maybe this is like an undergraduate student doing undergraduate research, right? So all of these show up in this basket. They've not yet been applied to any photos until I click apply at the bottom right here, apply collection to selected. There's a technical reason why they put it in a basket first, and it has to do with how large the collection or the selected photos might be and how long it takes to apply individual keywords. So putting it in the basket and then applying it later is helpful. Over here on the bottom left, you have a choice, a drop-down menu for applying this to caption or keywords. Obviously, I think it's obvious, you want to put it in the keywords field in the IPTC data. I like to keep the append clicked because that way, if there are any keywords there already, I am adding to, not overwriting. I have here double-click adds keyword collection, and that means every time I come through here and click one of these, this is going to be a summer research fellow, and Eureka is our summer research program. Every time I double click, it adds it to the collection, and then I can add the collection to the selected, which I'm not going to do because that's not biology. So that's what it looks
Ken?
like. Yes.
Quick question before we get too far down this
Sure.
path here. What's the difference between the three apply options?
Okay. If I click on a single keyword, let's say biology, and I choose apply keyword to selected, the middle one, that will apply that keyword. It's ignoring the collection, that collection basket. It's just applying that keyword to the selected photos, one keyword at a time. If I apply path to selected, it's applying biology and academic departments and academics. It's applying the whole path, the whole tree branch, right? From the trunk to the end, that whole path gets applied. So you would have keywords academics, academic departments, and biology.
Okay, another question, Ken. Can you share your keyword list?
Yeah, it's already in the documents folder on UPAA Facebook page, but I can put a new one up there.
Okay, yes. And then last one, you had to manually browse all the subcategories, right? It's challenging even for the most attention span.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking. I'm just seeing that now. That's from Matt. What do you mean by manually browse them? I mean, it seems fairly quick to figure out what academic department you're in. It seems fairly quick to figure out where you are, what you're doing.
You started with a list on the left of what looks to be about 8 things.
Right.
Then you click on one of those 8, and then you got another list that appeared to be like 40 things.
Sure.
And then among those you picked in the next category, you could get a third column that could be even more. And I'm just thinking, if I instruct somebody to do that,
well, I guess my
my
question for then, Matt, is what's the alternative, right? Is the alternative to have 5,000 keywords in a long alphabetical list? Nobody's going to do that. Or are they going to start typing, oh, let's see, library, oh, biology, oh, whatever, and then it's totally random there too.
But you
right?
Later on, you did say, like, no sooner had I hit send than I think you hit something about there's a way to set it up so that if you hit the thing on the left, everything to the right then goes in automatically, or something is the other way around?
Other way around. Everything from the right back to the left goes in automatically. If you would choose, so you can apply. There are two ways you can apply this. You can apply the individual keyword, which is at the end of whatever individual thing that you were getting ready to click on. Like if I go to academics and I go to academic departments, let me clear this. If I go to academic departments and I choose biology, if I double click biology, it adds just biology to the collection. Let me clear that again. And let me go down here where it says double click adds keyword. Let me add path instead. So if I double click on biology, I get the whole path: biology, academic departments, and academics. I don't necessarily want that. I'd rather go through and double click on the things that I do want. So I leave it at just keyword. So I have to go through here. Yes, I have to manually go through this and figure out what keywords go in this basket to be applied to the photos.
It's kind of what Jaron said in the first one. Everybody's world is going to be a little bit different. So
absolutely,
I think in my world, the automatically apply the whole string probably works a little better. So
probably so. Absolutely, yes. So,
but no sooner had I hit send than you covered that. So thank you.
Sure. So let me go back here to the contact sheet in Photo Mechanic, and I have chosen all the photos that show our security officer at the front gate. And I'm going to choose the metadata template, the IPTC, what they used to call the stationary pad in previous versions. And I have pre-filled in a caption here. And you can see the caption. It's very straightforward, right? It's got who it is, what are they doing, where are they doing it, and when, right? So if you look at the photo and you read the caption, you have some idea what's going on. But I want to add some keywords here that might be useful later on. So one of the things that I can do in the metadata template is I can start typing random keywords, right? I can wing it. I can just start typing here. I can type in security, gate, whatever. But I'd rather not do that. I'd rather choose the structured keywords panel. And now I've got the structured keywords panel, and I'm going to put in people and staff and working, and I'm going to go to administration, departments. I'm going to put in university police. I'm going to put in COVID-19 and coronavirus and response. What else could I put in there? I could put in facilities, features. I could put in gate for the front gate. You know, that's probably going to find where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with this particular one is I often get requests from the university police. Hey, can you send us some pictures of some of our officers working? Well, now I can, or now they can find them themselves. So when I hit apply down here, it's going to take this collection basket of keywords and put it in the metadata template right there. Boom, there it is. So now when I apply the template to selected, it will put all of this information in the raw file of all of these photos, right? And by the way, does anybody out there not use Photo Mechanic? I'm sure there are some of you. What are you guys using?
I'm using Lightroom.
Lightroom, okay.
And that's my big question is, like, aside from the speed of Photo Mechanic, it seems I've always wondered what the other advantages for Photo Mechanic are, and it looks like the structured key list would be one.
Yeah, I feel like with Photo Mechanic, it is significantly faster for me over Lightroom in terms of the very first edit and applying all the metadata. It lets me save presets a lot more easily, which is great. And basically ingesting off of the cards and putting them in a folder. But for me, I think the structured keywords panel is what makes it worth every penny. And the EDU price is like $60. It's like I think I just paid $59 and change for two seats when I updated to Photo Mechanic 6. So when I apply this, it's going to apply to all of them. So when I go look at the individual, it's got all that information. I can do the same thing let's go grab all these tulip photos. Let's grab these because they're select them.
Ken, while you're doing that,
Sure.
So Randy mentioned that he's using Bridge
Okay.
to do his, which I will confess, much to Jaron's dismay, that I too use Bridge, and there is a structured keyword function in there as well. So
I
you
will
can
need
do
to go
much
look
of
at
the
that.
same.
Okay.
Anyway, I think I'm doing one of these later in the month or whenever. But anyway,
Yeah, do one on Bridge. I would like to go to that. I used Bridge for a long time. So yeah. So I've got a new set of photos here, so they're not going to get the same caption or keywords. So I'm going to grab a little lightning bolt here and grab my caption template, which keeps all of my personal information and university information here. And this is going to be, what did we say? Tulips bloom on Hearn Plaza. And then I'm going to choose on the campus of Wake Forest University, blah, 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 which I have saved, which is nice. And then I'm going to do structured keywords again. Notice it comes up with a blank collection. It's fine. I'm going to go to Hearn Plaza and the Quad. I'm going to go to landscaping, flowers. I'm going to go to concepts. This is season spring. It's time of day morning. You guys are getting the picture here, right? It's beautiful campus, scenic campus environment. Apply that, right? So now you've got it in the raw file. And so I don't know that I have Lightroom fired up here, but when I go to look at this in Lightroom.
So you are using Lightroom too, as well,
I
or
use
as well?
Lightroom for my raw processing.
Okay.
Yeah, I use Lightroom for my raw processing. Hang on a second. Let me. Hey, hi, there I am. If I go down and find that campus, so here are the photos in Lightroom. I can look at the photo in Lightroom. It has all the keyword tags. It has the caption. All the information is there. When I save out just grab any one of these. Grab out this one, export it. Hide that for a second. I'm going to close this. Where is my archive JPEG folder? And if I look at that, it has in the JPEG, which looks just terrible, all of that information ends up in the final JPEG. So how do you do this? How do you set this up? How do I get rid of the little blue line that I put there when I annotated? Clear, is there a clear? Clear. Clear all drawings. Okay, that's gone now. Brilliant. Okay, so the way that you do this is in something like TextEdit, which TextEdit is a Macintosh program. I assume there's something like this for our friends who use PCs. I honestly don't know what it is. I'm not a PC person. But first things first, you can't do this in Microsoft Word. Okay, it has to be done in something like TextEdit. And what you end up doing is you end up building that structure, and you can see where the structure is with using the tab function, right? So the leftmost column is going to be that leftmost column in the in structured keywords panel, and then the second column, third column as you go in on the tabs. So the easiest way to do this is to go ahead and build one. I'm going to go ahead and open up a new panel, and we're going to start out, we're going to call it academics, and then we're going to go departments, and then what's a real small school, we have biology, we have English, we have history, and we have physics. And then what else have we got? We've got location, if I can spell properly. This is why I don't do this without it. Location, we have classroom, we have lab. What else do we have? We have a seminar. And then we have people, We have students. We have student because your search should find students. We have faculty. I'm going to put a comma here and say professor. What I just did was I just did synonyms, right? So faculty and professor are basically the same thing. I don't know what people are going to choose. And then we have campus, and we have residence, Hall, and we have Johnson, and we have Jones, and we have Smith. So now, one thing I've got to do, notice up here, this is an untitled.rtf. That means that it is a rich text file. You don't want that. It has to be text only. So under format, I'm going to choose make plain text. And it's going to be plain text. You could do that at the beginning if you wanted. I'm going to save this. This is going to be, we'll just call it test keywords. And I'm going to save it to my desktop, save. And now I'm going to hide that. I'm going to open up Photo Mechanic again. Where am I? Reopen this. Okay, now if I go ahead and call the structured keywords panel, I'm going to come down here, and I've got my new one, right? I'm going to come down here and click load. I'm going to search for that panel, and I've got test keywords. Wait a minute, I want desktop. Test keywords.txt today at 1:41 p.m. Open. And now I have my first layer here, my first level of my hierarchy. Click academics, click departments, biology. I've got them all right here. There's a biology, location, we're in the lab. We're not in a residence hall people. We've got a faculty and a student. And notice when I clicked faculty and professor, it put them both there, right? So if somebody searches for professor, they get them. If they search for faculty, they get them. You could substitute, add teacher, whatever else you wanted to add. If I wanted to do the synonyms a different way, I am going to come up here and I'm going to rename this. I'm going to delete professor. And next to faculty, I'm going to right click it. I'm going to say create synonym. And over here, I'm going to type professor. Notice that it's in green. Now, let me clear this. If I choose faculty, it's always going to take the synonym automatically. Like that. Notice it puts that bar there, and honestly, I use commas in keywords, and I don't know that single vertical bar will have the same effect in our keyword searches in Libris. I don't know how that works. So
there should be a semicolon in most damn.
Right. So I don't understand. Apply. Let me select something. Apply to selected. Let me see what it does. It puts it in with that bar. So I don't know what that bar does. So I have not used that particular method. I don't know if it works or not. But that's how you set up your own. Obviously, it's going to be more complex than that, but that's a very simple way of doing it. So when you, where are we? When you were looking at our photo archive, this is the Wake Forest Photo Archive. If I click on search, I can go up here and I can search for quad spring flower, and I'm going to get all those tulips that we saw earlier, even though I didn't search for tulips or Hearn Plaza, right? But I still get them. I can search for biology lab, and I can get and of course, in Libris, the way I've got this set up is the most recent photos are on top. I can search for, in quotes, beautiful campus, and get just the photos that have those two words in that order. It looks like I've actually shot a few more recently. So let's look at, like, if I look at this photo here, if I'm looking in Libris, now I don't know about other systems, but the way Libris works if you look over here on the right-hand side, it's got the caption, it's got some other information about it, it's got a list of keywords. All of these are searchable links. If I go ahead and click on Beautiful Campus, I'm going to get it, basically a search for that. If I open it up and I search for coronavirus, that's brilliant. I'm going to get everything that's tagged with coronavirus, which is, you know, way too many photos right now. And of course, it just seemed to have stopped showing me pictures.
I have a question.
Shoot, fire away.
When you're in Libris, which we don't use, we use Portfolio right now. All your images in Libris are JPEG. So are they final JPEGs, edited, colorized, the whole works?
Absolutely, yes. They are all ready to go. This is where our designers and editors get the photos they use.
They don't use raw files.
I don't let them use raw files. None of them have any idea what to do with a raw file.
Wow.
I mean, seriously, I know. I'm not going to let a writer download a raw file and open it. And what are they going to open it in?
Right.
You know, they'll save it out in some weird color space and put it in the web and ask me why it looks so bad. No, these are all sRGB JPEGs at the full resolution of the camera, minus whatever minor cropping. I have a problem with getting things horizontal, getting the horizon line straight by a degree or two. But they're all in the sRGB color space because that looks fine in both both offset printing and on the web. And the people who end up using them can't screw it up. And if I gave them raw files, most of them would screw it up.
Fair enough.
Any other questions?
Oh, there's one, Ken. Are you applying all the metadata on ingestion
No,
for the
I'm
entire
not.
take?
I'm not. I do that. So when I ingest, the way that I've got ingest set up is I've got a big, see if I can unplug it here. I have got this Lexar 4-bay SD card, and you can pop these out and put a CF card or a CFast or whatever in there. I don't know if these are still available. Lexar had some problems, but this is hooked up via Thunderbolt to my Mac, and so I get full USB 3 download speeds from all 4 at the same time, which is great. But if I'm downloading 4 of them, I want them all to go in the same folder, which is my ingest folder. And then I'm going to go through and rename them and put them in a separate folder for each assignment. And once they're in that separate folder, that's when they get captions and keywords and all the other metadata. And then I go through that and I do my initial edit and cull, and I throw away whatever is not usable. Just throw it away. And then once I've done that, I can go through it again, choose out the photos that I want to process and put in the archive. And so I put those then in Lightroom, and you can see that over here. This is my 2020 raw files in Lightroom. And each one of these folders is on my RAID drive here. Each one of these folders is here's my January headshots, and here's a basketball game that my student photographer shot. I'm not even sure what else. There's just everything gets a folder. And so the ones that have 5 stars are the ones that were processed, saved as the high-res JPEGs, and put in the archive for the end users to do.
Hey, Ken?
Yes.
How do you edit what appears in the lightning bolt? What are some of the benefits of the lightning bolt and Photo Mechanic?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about Photo Mechanic. Let's look at that. Okay, so let me open up in my IPTC template, and I'm going to clear it using the clear button down here. And I am going to create an IPTC template for my new student photographer, right? So my new student photographer is John Smith, and he is class of 23, and he is a student photographer. And notice I'm adding the stuff to my, photographer, and the copyright is Wake Forest University, University, right? My typing is terrible. John Smith. And then I'm going to put in the title name, I'm going to put a variable. We're not going to get into variables right now in Photo Mechanic, but this will put the file name, the actual file name in the IPTC template. So when somebody sends you, oh, I downloaded this photo and I renamed it photo 1 or page 63, top right or whatever, and they send me the file and they want a different version or a high-res version, I can look in the IPTC data if it hasn't been stripped and find the original file name, which is huge. I see where Jaron and his crew were putting that original file name actually in the caption, which is another way to do it. I've got, let's see, city is going to be Winston-Salem, just it's not always Winston-Salem, obviously. USA. Okay, now I'm going to come down here to the lightning bolt icon and choose save. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this John Smith caption, right? And click OK. So now under the lightning bolt, I've got something called John Smith caption. So if I go back to Wake Forest caption, notice it's got all of my information. If I go to John Smith caption, it's got all of his information. If I go to my actual student photographer, it's got his information. So I can very quickly, one of my freelancers, I can very quickly go through here, especially when it's me. I mean, I'm in a hurry on a lot. Just get a new ready-to-go template and just start typing in the caption field, and that works for almost anything you can do in Photo Mechanics. So, yeah, I don't care. Okay, so for example, if I want to save this photo out, I can choose Command S, and I've got lots of choices, right? I can choose. It can be a JPEG, it can be a TIFF. I can watermark it. I can rename it. I can resize it. Well, I can save those. So I have got a whole bunch of choices in these snapshots on the lightning bolt. I can choose to save it as an 800 pixel file to email to the subject. I can save it as an Instagram photo, which not only reduces the size, but it saves it to my Dropbox, to an Instagram folder in my Dropbox. I can save a 1600 pixel Flickr photo, a 2400 pixel exposure photo. I can save proofs that have the last 4 of the file name, real big, right across the middle. Lots of choices there, right? And again, you do it the same way. You set up exactly what you want, and you choose save, and you can choose all of these options can be saved out, so you can do it again the next time. Close that. If I want to rename it, I've got a Wake Forest rename, and I've got date sort is the 8 character date starting with the year. And then I've got these X's, the file name, and then sequence. So, and I often will reset the sequence to 0001. So if I double click this, I can type in wherever this is, front gate, right? And it will rename it front gate. When I go to the next one, it's there ready to go. If that's not really a front gate photo, I can go back and start again. And I can type in rear gate or whatever. I don't know. We don't have a rear gate, but does that answer the question? That's another one of those, if you have multiple things that you're doing, one of the reasons I like Photo Mechanic for metadata applications, it lets me save all of these things so I don't have to retype lots of stuff all at the same time. One of the reasons I like Lightroom for processing raw files is it lets me save all these presets so that in Lightroom, if I want to output a photo, let me go back to the campus photos here. Attribute, 5 stars, there we go. If I go to one of these photos, I can right click it and choose export, and I've got a bunch of my own user presets down here. Archive JPEG file is what's going to go in my archive. An Instagram file, a small file that goes to my Instagram folder. A smaller headshot file rather than the 50 megapixel version that comes out of the camera. I can save a DNG that goes to my personal computer for my portfolio. You can also do many of these at the same time if you just go to export. I just go to export, I can choose a bunch of these. So I can choose a portfolio DNG and an email proof and an Instagram and an archive JPEG file. It will export all of them at the same time in different places, which is kind of cool. So being able to have these presets in any of these applications is huge. Okay. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it. I'm going to unshare this. And now I can look at you all again. Yay. Any other questions?
I'm curious, back to when you're actually applying the keyword. Have you ever used the find field to jump to like the 5th branch of your tree rather than clicking through every time?
No, I haven't. I obviously you can do that. There is a way to find stuff, and I think if I had much more complex field, like if I don't know, I can see where if I were like at the medical school, I could have a really big, very complex set of keywords. But I don't do that.
Okay.
I just go. I pretty much know where they all are at this point, and what keywords I want applied to stuff.
Yeah, I've got a question, Ken.
Yeah.
Back a minute ago, when you were applying the dates and then the name and then the sequence, you said you clear it out to be 0001.
Yes.
Is that what you normally do when you're exporting, or do you keep the original raw sequence number, if that makes sense?
No, that's so when I did that, that was resetting the file name in when I am giving the raw file a new name, and I'm ignoring the 4-digit sequence from the camera. And the reason for that is I have multiple cameras, and often they'll get to the point where they both are giving me the same sequence number and there's overlap. And so my goal with file naming is you can't ever have 2 different photos with the same file name, right? You can't, because if they have the same file name, then you don't know which ones. So if I have 2 cameras and they're both in the same range or the overlapping range of those 4-digit frame numbers, and I use that 4-digit frame number and I give it, 2020 0402 front gate, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have multiple photos that have the same 1, 2, 3, 4 from different cameras, then that's a problem, right? And I don't want to have that. So I just I sort them by date shot, by capture time, and I try to make sure, and this is a problem all the time, is are my cameras set to the correct time and are they synchronized? That happens all the time as they get out of sync. So you sort them all by capture time, and then you select all and you rename them, and you start with a low frame number. I don't always reset to 0001, but often I do. And then everything is in order. So they're in order by capture time, but they're also in order by file name. So if you look at the file name, you also know when it was shot, right? Because so when I sort them in reverse order in the archive, when somebody does a search, they show up in reverse chronological order. They're actually in reverse capture time order when they're in reverse file name order, right? So they sort chronologically and alphabetically at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
So Adam, I think you've got several shooters at UIC, is that correct?
That's correct.
I see your problem there. Is it possible to rename the to an initial to the initials of the shooter instead of DSC? That way, you can tell who shot it, even on ingestion. Just a thought.
Yeah, because the problem, or one thing that comes up is, if we got 2 or 3 shooters covering an event, and then, maybe one of us ends up editing all the images, but if not, then you got 3 people that are exporting as, 1, 2, 3.
Right. Yeah, that's an issue. But you have the same problem if you keep the 4-digit frame number from the camera. One thing that I would probably do with that is you've got that initial file name that is, whatever it is, DSC underbar 1, 2, 3, 4 or something. If you could have every individual camera have a different combination of letters, like the Canon will let you choose a 4-digit code. I think with the Canon 1 series cameras, every camera has a default different 4-digit code. So every camera's got a unique code in the file name. And with the Fujis, I can do that. If all of my Fuji cameras have a unique name, so the original file names have a unique. They're all unique, and so if you kept that original file name as part of your file naming convention, they would all be unique.
Cool.
And you'll be able to keep track of who shot what, and also not have that problem of, oh crap, we have two files with the same name, and now we don't know which one overwrote the other, or you end up starting having a problem. Oh, I'm going to put this file in this folder. Oh, it already exists. Oh, just overwrite it. You don't really pay attention to the fact that it's a different picture.
Can I interject here?
Yeah.
I know that in Lightroom, you get the bar across the top with the pull downs of like camera or date or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You can change some of those. And one of the selections is camera serial number.
Yep. Yes. And that's useful for seeing that. But I don't know how much that's going to help for file naming if you're using photo, especially if you have three different people. I can see your problem, Adam. With three people doing file naming on three different computers, you have to make sure that they don't have. And maybe part of your file naming convention is the photographer's initials in the file name.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Ken, I do have a question.
Shoot.
I got my structured keyword panel set up pretty similar to what you have, but I didn't set that up using a text editor. I just typed everything manually right into it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what I've been trying to do is to get a list, generate a list to share with other people, and I just can't seem to figure out how to generate that list.
If you open the structured keywords panel,
yes,
then down at the bottom right, there's a load and save options.
Okay.
Click save. And it will save out that hierarchical text file that we were working in TextEdit.
Okay, great.
And
I knew it was something simple. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah, and anybody else can take that file and load it into their version of Photo Mechanic. And so you can easily share around a single file. So that's kind of the cool thing, is you can share around a single file that one of you creates. And then don't be afraid to modify your keyword set, right? There may be there's a new building on campus, there's a new vice president, whatever. You can modify it. Just make sure that if you have more than one photographer using this set, that you save it out and give it. You want to make sure you're all using the same set, right? But that's pretty straightforward.
Thanks.
All right, that's an hour. I don't want to take up any more of anybody's time if they don't want to. But I'm happy to answer questions.
Fred's got a question, Ken. I don't know if you can just see it. You can read it, or I can. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, Fred says that at University of Illinois they use numbers for the photographer. So I got a question for you, Fred. Is that thanks, Randy. Is that, do you have to compete to be number one? Is that how that works?
Yeah, no, it's yeah, well, it's definitely not me, that's for sure. But I actually like the idea of using initials better, because it sort of is a clue to who the photographer is, at least in current staff. Maybe historical it's trickier, but nobody knows who I'm 08, and nobody knows who 08 is,
so close to 007.
Dang
so
it.
Close.
Yeah.
So close.
So close.
Yeah. Story of my life.
Right.
What I've really liked about keeping the original raw sequence number is that, say, for example, I've got a student photographer that exports what they think is a great final image as a JPEG. I need to fix it now. I can then look at the, file sequence number, go back to the raw file easily, as opposed to if it's exported as 008, then I gotta go look for it manually.
Okay, I guess that means that they're not changing the file names of the raw files.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because I am. So when I have a let me share my screen again real quick if I can do that. If I go back to Lightroom here, if I'm looking at this up there on the upper, let me just do this. If you can see up there on the upper left, that that 2020-03-19 Campus 0554, that is the name of the raw file.
I see. I see.
And so it's also the name of the JPEG file. So they all have the same file name. There are a couple of ways that would be kind of kludgy to save the original raw file name that was in the camera out into the metadata in photo mechanic, but you basically would have to do it twice. You'd have to select all the photos, have a template for the IPTC data that was just saving the original file name to a field, a special field, whatever you wanted it to be, and then rename the photos, and then, or I guess not rename the photos, but put somewhere keep the original file name in the metadata field, so that if you're exporting something with a different name, you can go back and find the original. But I find it easier just to not worry about the original file name out of the camera, and have a much more useful file name, and have that be the original raw file name, and then it extends through. So if I've got a web version, it's this file name hyphen web, or this file name hyphen IG for Instagram, or this file name hyphen whatever. So you're using a suffix to tell you that it's the same photo but a different kind of file, right? In the same way that .raf or .nef or .cr2 tells you it's a different kind of file than .jpg. So the suffix gives you some information.
Cool.
Hey, can I jump back in again?
Sure.
So I went to the Roberts Education Symposium, and Casey Templeton from Photo Shelter presented, and he threw out some heavy hitters there. It was sort of like best practices for dams. One of them, well, I'll go with one, was his controlled vocabulary. He wanted an extremely small one, like the fewest number of words possible, because he said it's really hard for people to comply with a huge CD set, which, you know, it seems like, okay, campus-wide sort of enforcing that would be challenging. That was one. Two, he was advocating really to ignore captions or the description field, and that all that mattered was just like a string of keywords, which to me, as, you know, a former journalist, sort of like, oh, that's heresy.
It's heresy.
Yeah, completely.
Well,
No, it's heresy because we're not stock photographers, right?
Right.
We're not. Nobody cares what the caption is of some beautiful scenic mountain or whatever. They want to list it. They want the name of the mountain. You think about a stock photo. People are searching by keywords. They don't care the name of the person in the village. We're journalists. We do care. But also our end users care what that information is, right? Remember, when back, the caption tells the story of that photo. And without that, your end users don't know whether, I mean, in an extreme circumstance, I keep telling my end users, please read the caption, because that will give you information about whether the usage that you were thinking about is appropriate for this photo, right? There are pictures there are photographs in our archive of people who are not Wake Forest students. If you grab one of those and just throw it in a brochure, that opens us up to legal liability, right? Maybe it's a high school student, maybe it's someone, but if you read the caption and it says, oh, visitors from some other campus, read the caption. That's why the information is there. As a journalist, I think it's heresy, but I also think it would not be helpful as a university photographer. I disagree with that.
I'm with you too, Ken. Here's another one for you. So I didn't know how many, what standard practices are. For our image database, we do not name the student or students in the photos. It's sort of a generic student, and I didn't know if other places did it differently.
That's interesting.
If we have I'll say this, Fred, if we have a photo release, so if it's a marketing photo where they're identified or attributed a statement to, we add their name.
Okay.
But if general campus or something or other, and I might know it, no. We're on the same thread. We are shying away from gender, which was part of the dam years ago. It's just no longer relevant. And as Ken mentioned in something, there's some legal liability there. that we just don't want to open ourselves up to, or not even legal. We just don't want to get complaints, which is our
So do you substitute using they and other appropriate terms then now, or how do you?
Trying to. That's a struggle for an old man. I'll be honest, but I'm working on it, trying hard. And then the other thing is legacy stuff that was done in 2001 with captions and keywords. We can't be responsible for that. We just don't have the time or the manpower to go back and change everything. So if 2003 identified this student as a male or female, I'm sorry, we'll beg forgiveness on that one. We just don't have the time.
You could, depending on what your DAM system is, you could go in there and find all the photos that are labeled with male and just wipe them out. I don't mean the photos, but wipe out that keyword.
Right.
So, Fred, I want to answer that about naming the students. And this is something that I'd never really considered. I do put the names in captions. I'm really, I walk up to people all the time and ask their names after either before or after making pictures. Because, I was an AP photographer for a long time, and you name everybody in the photo, right? Just standard AP style. Everybody gets named. And so I had an interesting conversation with one of the folks that handles not really fundraising. Well, yeah, I guess it's fundraising, but asking specific people for money, right? And so what you have to understand about our university is, we were historically a small Baptist college in Eastern North Carolina, and our alumni tend to be small town teachers, ministers, doctors, lawyers. They're not wealthy people, right? So now we've become this big national university, and the people who have money are parents, right? Our alumni don't, but our parents do. So we ask our parents for money. We have like a 4 or 5 year window where we can ask them for $10 million to put their name on a building. So our fundraisers who are designing these multi-page color printed brochures to ask one person for money will put the kid's name in our archive and see what they come up with. And sometimes they get a hit, and there's a picture of here's your proposal, and there's a picture of your kid in it that we just happen to have. And they would never find that if I didn't put the names in there. And that's one of those things that made me feel pretty good about all that work of putting the names in there.
One of our experiences is like alumni profiles in our view book, where we would, if we've got somebody that's 5 years out or whatever, and we want to shoot a new portrait and say what they've done great, then we can go back and we can look at all the pictures of them playing on the baseball team or student government or whatever. And obviously that doesn't apply to every person that I photograph, but it's really useful when I got to find them. That's just how we use it. So we tag students.
Actually, that's a great point, Clay. I think people that are tasked with adding keywords or captions to a DAM system should first spend 6 months trying to find photos. Once they understand the need, they'll be more diligent to do it correctly and accurately. It's just, until you understand why we're doing this, students may not get it. What do I care?
And I'll be honest with you. I've had suggestions over the years. Oh, you should get so and so to do your keywording or write the captions for you. No, they weren't there. They don't know who these people are. They don't know. I feel very strongly that the photographer needs to do this. Personal opinion, but that's I think that's important.
Okay, there was a question about AI, Ken. I typed an answer. I don't know if you want to chime in on that.
Yeah, Randy Gentry asked, when will AI take over in keyword for us? And Glenn Carpenter says that they had the keywords pregnant male added to a photo of a person who was not, okay, so first of all, right, how do you even add both of those keywords to something? But that person was not male and not pregnant, so that's sort of a problem. You want to expand on that, Glenn?
Until it's better, I would shy away from it. We turned it on when we upgraded our DAM system, thinking, oh, this is going to be great. And now we've got keywords that are just not good at all. And it's going to be a nightmare to get them out. I would if it were up to shy away from it until it's foolproof. I mean, you don't want to misname the president of your college.
Right.
You know, and somebody searches it and pulls it up, and now all of a sudden, you know, you're putting a photo out there who's not your president.
Right.
The liability, it's run away.
Yeah.
Run away.
I want to have control over what the keywords are. All right. Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Ken.
Thanks,
It
Ken.
was
Awesome.
awesome.
Good
Yeah,
seeing
this is
everybody.
great.
Yeah, great job.
Good to see
Thank you.
everybody's faces.
Hey,
Yeah.
if you have ideas on
Absolutely.
other sessions you want, email, you know, Ken, myself, Jaron, Nate, things you want to do. If you want to host one of these, or if things you'd like to see offered.
Fred's Wiki.
Fred's Wiki.
Yeah. Fred's Wiki.
Yeah.
Just a hint.
I'm learning from you guys. Yeah.
We're all
Oh.
learning from each other, and that's the great thing.
Yeah. It was really good to see all of you.
Take care.
Have a good day, everyone.
Everybody
Yeah.
hang in there.
You as well. Stay healthy, stay safe.
Everybody's disappearing. It's kind of fun.
Bye.